Hi everybody, Adrian Plass here for the 18th time.
Yes, and Bridget.
What amazing, isn't it? 18 of these we've done.
Yes.
I cannot believe it. Every
Yes.
single day. And we're going
Yes.
to carry on for
And the
as long as we need
jigsaw's
to.
still not finished.
Yeah, this jigsaw has become a sort of running saw. Now, that's not the right expression, is it? A running story. The straight bits are done. Some bits at the bottom and the sides have been put together, mostly by Bridget. But the hot news is that we now have a selection of groups of pieces that go together, but we have no idea how they fit together. So the next stage will be doing that. But we are getting on.
We're really hoping that maybe on one wonderful evening they'll just, under their own volition, just move into place.
We don't have the faith for that.
No,
and I'm not going to a church that preaches that we do. So there we are. Anyway, yesterday we were talking about forgiveness, and we've had one or two interesting responses, one or two serious ones, which we will get back to you about.
Yes, of course.
But one made you laugh.
Oh, it did. It was somebody who reminded me about the film Love Story, and the fact that in Love Story we hear that being in love means never having to say you're sorry. And this person pointed out that as far as they were concerned, being in love means you always have to say you're sorry, which reminded me of something that I don't think I've resolved with Adrian quite. It's something he wrote some time ago called No Agenda. I offer you my heart and soul, my money and my life. Just don't ever ask me to say sorry to my wife. Yeah, I think we'll talk about that later, Adrian.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very helpful for some people. I'm sure it is. Thank you very much for reading that wonderful poem.
It's all right.
I did actually write a bit in the Sacred Diary of Adrian Plass, which is sort of about forgiveness. Years and years ago, some of you may have read that book. The diary is written by someone called Adrian, and he's married to Anne, and he makes all the mistakes that all of us make. And all that, of course, is excavated from myself.
And he was 37 and three quarters at the time.
37 and 3/4, yeah. Okay, and this is the extract. Wednesday. Felt led during quiet time this morning to give poor, quaint old Mr. Brain, our actor neighbour, a little financial gift. I remembered that verse in the Bible about giving secretly. Didn't even tell Anne what I was doing. I popped it through his letterbox in a plain envelope when I got home from work. Hung about for a bit, hoping he'd spot me through the window. Thursday. Couldn't help feeling a sort of glow inside all day at work, thinking of Mr. Brain's pleasure. What a joy and a privilege it is to give. Friday. Came home from work tonight, find a note on the mat addressed to me. Dear Mr. Plass, in the remote past you took possession of my excellent mechanical hedge trimmer. You described the transaction as a loan. Possibly the terms loan and theft are synonymous in your vocabulary. If not, perhaps you would return my property. Otherwise, I must invite you to explain your verbal idiosyncrasies to my solicitors, from whom you will shortly hear. From your frail elderly victim, Percival X. Brain. I showed the letter to Anne. She said, what a scream. He's a real character, isn't he? I said, oh yes, Anne, he's a real character. Took the blasted trimmer round to the silly old git. When he came to the door, I said, anything good happened this week, Mr. Brain? Brain said, the Lord has provided, young man, through some soul whose nature it is to give rather than take. A lesson there for you, Plass, a lesson. Wagged his finger at me. I very nearly trimmed it. Went home and sulked for an hour. In the end, Anne tickled me from behind and said, Didham's got the sulky wulkies 'cause nasty Mr. Brainy Waney thinks Didham's is a big nasty man. Couldn't help smiling. Sulk ruined. Saturday. Secret giving's hard. At the moment I feel like strangling Brain and telling him about the money just before he dies. Fine Christian I am. I ask God to make me a better person.
And that's probably the crux of it, isn't it? We'd all like to be better people. We'd like to be the sort of person who really can forgive whatever has happened. And we're not. We're just ordinary, and we have to struggle through.
Well, we probably don't have to struggle as much as we think we do, because God isn't stupid. He may be omniscient, but he's not stupid. It takes a process, doesn't it? And one of the things I know is important is that we own the hurt.
Yeah.
And somebody, I won't go into the story, but someone emailed me a while ago about something somebody had done, really unpleasant to them, and said, what should I do? And I said, just get them into the toilet at the church with somebody else, dip their heads in the toilet 3 times, and then flush it. Mm-hmm. And I said, that's the Jesus way. And then I said, but you won't, will you? Because you're burdened with compassion and love and all those other things, and you're not going to do that. But the first bit is to say, it hurt me.
Yeah.
And to make that real.
Yeah.
And then you're ready to think about how you're going to tackle it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the old story about the fellow in the car who, everyone knows the story, finds an old yokel and says, how do I get to wherever he's going? And the old yokel says, well, I wouldn't start from here if I were you.
Yes, but we must start from here. And I absolutely agree with Adrian on this, and I hope you do too. Because to us, it's become so important. We meet so many people, who started by being very hurt. I think the elder son in the prodigal story is like that. He started off by being very, very hurt that he'd been there all the time, and now this son was going to get a big party. The problem is you turn the corner, and then sometimes you meet someone who says you're absolutely right to be hurt and angry. You stand on your rights. You don't let them get away with it. And if you're not careful, that hurt that began turns into anger, and a strange sort of Chinese whisper can happen, our very own Chinese whisper, whereby something that hurt us in the first place a bit gets kind of solidified and becomes almost something else.
Now, it's not easy to understand that, but I'll give you an example. I went to speak somewhere once, and I went on the train. When I got off the train, there was a lady waiting to give me a lift to the venue. We'll call her Janet. This is, as near as I can remember, the conversation that occurred.
Hello, Adrian, I'm Janet. I'm taking you to the church, and I'll be running you back to the station afterwards.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks so much for taking the job on. I really do appreciate it. Oh, look, nice, lovely, comfortable car too.
No problem at all. I wanted to do it. I volunteered, actually.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much.
You probably don't remember it, but actually we have met before.
Really? What, recently, you mean?
No. It was 3 or 4 years ago. You came to speak at my church? Well, the church I used to go to, just on the border in Dunkirk, a few miles from here.
Dunkirk.
Dunkirk Baptist. The pastor called Alec Downs.
Oh, sorry. Of course, no. I've got it. Actually, I spoke there a couple of times, and I got on really well with Alec. He was a really good guy. So, what, you left there?
Yeah. Well, I had to.
You had to? Why?
Because of Alec. Because of what he said to me.
Well, what did he say to you? What did he say?
Well, Alec told me that I was a child of the devil.
A child of the devil?
Yep, that's what he said. He called me a child of the devil. So I had to leave. I had to.
I see. So, Janet dropped me off at the venue, and I did the evening, and that was okay. But I was a bit puzzled. I remembered Alec well, and I really liked him. I found it impossible to imagine him saying that to anybody. So later on, after the event, when Janet had picked me up to go back to the station, I asked her a question. Janet, you know what you said when you picked me up earlier about, the thing Alec said to you?
Yes.
Well, just tell me again what he said.
Okay. He called me a child of the devil, and that's why I left.
A child of the devil?
That's right.
Just so he used those actual words, did he? He He said to you, Janet, you are a child of the devil.
Yes.
And yet, let me get this straight. Those exact precise words. Alec said to you, Janet, you are a child of the devil. Is that right?
Well. I mean, he said that my behaviour wasn't what he would expect from a child of God. So, obviously, he was calling me a child of the devil, wasn't he?
I see. So, actually, he had not called Janet a child of the devil. And the disturbing thing about that encounter, and that is exactly how it happened, was that she believed,
I think so,
the thing that her memory had become.
Yeah, but that's why this Chinese whisper is so dangerous, isn't it? It is to do with what you feed something with, I think, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You can sort of start feeding that, concentrating on it, and allowing it to become absolutely huge in you. And sometimes it takes a massive shock to enter into that, doesn't it?
Well, some things do take a long time, and this is a bit different. I remember once we, way down in the south of England, we led a group, didn't we?
Oh yes, what a sort of Bible study group.
Yeah, and a lady suddenly said, and she was in her late 60s probably. She said, "I am a vengeful woman."
She did. We quite like that.
We all perked up, thinking this could be interesting. And she explained. She said, "I've been a Christian for most of my life, and in that time," she said, "I haven't counted it, but I must have heard the Lord's Prayer, you know, Our Father who art in heaven, thousands and thousands of times." And she said, "Just recently, I was still somebody who always wanted revenge.
Absolutely,
I wanted my own back on
that.
people, and I would never accept it if they hurt me." And suddenly, as I listened to the Lord's Prayer and said it with the others, I heard myself saying, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." And she thought, I never did. And she said, "It's changed my life. It's changed my life." And my fevered imagination, I imagine some young novice angel who's been put on the job for 60 years. So
quite elderly now.
Yes, 60 years. And he's just gone to God and say, "I've done it. I've done it. I got it. She's heard it. I've done it." So some things do take an awful long time.
They do. They do. I don't know if anybody's listening to this who was with us at Scargill House a few years ago, where we did a summer week based on Naaman. And the story of Naaman has come to mean so much to Adrian and I, really, simply because of one thing. I'm sure you remember the story of Naaman, the guy who'd got this terrible skin disease, maybe leprosy, we don't know, and the little maid who'd actually been trafficked from another country but had the courage, when realising that he was incredibly ill with this horrible disease, remembered Elisha, a prophet from her old country, told her mistress, who told her husband, and the idea was he would go to Elisha and be healed. And if you remember the story, he took loads of gifts. He went to Elisha. Elisha treated him, as far as he was concerned, very badly. He didn't come out. He just sent a message saying, "Bathe in the Jordan." And Naaman was disgusted, didn't want to, but his servants, and this is part of the story I've always loved, it was his servants who said, "Well, if you'd been asked to do something really clever, you would have done." And Naaman thought, you know what, that's right. And he bathed in the Jordan. And if you remember, he dipped 3 times and he was totally healed and his skin was like a young boy's. Now, that's a wonderful story with loads of things in it. But it's what happens next that's come to mean so much to Adrian and I.
The bit after it was really interesting, as I never really noticed it. Naaman then, as Bridget said, goes back with gifts to Elisha. And he's about to leave with a big bag of earth from that country to Nilon when he prays to the one true God, who he now knows is the one true God. And he stops and he says to Elisha, "A bit of a problem. When I get back, my master, the king, will want me to go into the temple of Rimmon, the God I've believed in till now, and help him to bow before him." is that all right? Now, if you've got a sort of evangelical group together to discuss the options for Naaman, now, I don't think they'd have come up with what Elisha said. Elisha said, go in peace. Go in peace. Now, we don't always get told go in peace, but I know that for a lot of people, especially in this situation, you come to the end of the day and you say, I have not done it perfectly, I have not thought right, I have not prayed, I have made a mess. But God, I think, will very often say, tomorrow we'll sort some other things out. Tonight, go in peace.
Go in peace.
And I'll come with you.
Yeah.
Go in peace.
Absolutely. As you are, just as you are. Go in peace. And we still love hearing from you. Any stories about small change, any little stories about, well, anything really. We love hearing from you.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear real stories about real people who are making it or not making it through this very difficult time.
It really is.
So, yeah, keep them coming. And thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.